Okay, so maybe I now suggest we pull back to the discussion among all of us to see what people are coming up with. Anybody want to start?
So I think what we feel is that they've already.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, please.
Yeah. So in this case, I think in such cases, product market fit and validation is important. So I think in terms of their product and services, they already have validation in for one sector, which is IT and ITES, and it would make sense to just do a geography expansion and go to US and not get into a different vertical because what might be working, you might have to tweak your product and services a little bit because the requirements might be different in case of a BFSI companies. Also, from a different perspective, a lot of these companies are headquartered in US where decision makings might be completely based out of US. And once you crack a headquarter, all of a sudden you actually getting a reach to all the, all other offices across the globe. So from an expansion perspective, going vertical may not make sense, and then whatever existing services you have, take them to US, which I know might mean strong presence and strong, because this is a lot of manual sales and is required. But based on our recommendation, taking the services to ITES in US would be the.
So that's priority one. That's what you're saying. Please.
Hello. I think what we believe is you are trying to do machine learning here, bring in artificial intelligence for which you need data, right? Now it's a chicken and egg theory. What comes first? You can either have data and then sell it, or you can deep discount your services. Say I want to pilot with you. This is the prospective business that can come out, and let me do machine learning on your data. Similar to any strategy by say Google or Microsoft. Microsoft allowed privacy to happen for a simple reason that people get accustomed to it. It's get data. And then finally, once you have enough data points to sell it, you can easily go ahead and charge a price for it. Any other player who comes in, the entry barrier is high because he doesn't have that data which you are sitting with. So that's what I think.
Okay. Any table? Question is, how to scale at speed without stumbling? Because scale in almost all industries, but especially tech-driven businesses, scale gives huge, huge, huge advantage. Financial as well as manpower, technical, reputation, all of that. Any other thoughts? On the left side here. Huh? You have a question? No, okay. Nobody else? Any thoughts? Huh? Okay, please. One more, yeah? Yeah.
But taking a SaaS approach would give you an upper hand where you can start penetrating the global market.
So taking what approach?
Software as a service.
SaaS. Yeah, got it. Now, so the one idea we have here is give priority number one to taking to going into the US and UK, but obviously US is much bigger than UK. So to take ITIS, take your business in this vertical global, right? That's priority one. So let me just ask, just the question, should that be priority one, this idea that came from the table in front? How many of you would say, I agree? Okay, so it's about a third maybe, right? So 2/3 are a bit unclear, okay? Anybody want to make a case for some other as a priority one rather than ITES vertical and going global? Okay, please, over there. Okay.
I mean, for the new verticals, access to market in India is much easier than to crack something in the US. So, I mean, once we get access to, say, BFSI or some other healthcare segments, then the learning aspects, the metadata that you learn, right? I mean, you got to be first there, that will give you a
That's a very important, let me put that in the form of a question and see, Arjun, what your perspective is and so on, which is that this cell is your home base. And the question now is, for the moment, saying, go this way or go this way. Now, access to markets is the same thing as ability to win, right? Because you already are a winner here. So the question now is, given your alphas that you have created here, as you think about ability to win this way versus ability to win this way, are they equally easy to win, or is there a difference?
Absolutely, I would take that. Yeah. Yeah, so I would take that point as very valuable, saying that the focus on something that has already been validated with the market opportunity that I was talking to the other table, saying there are about 40 companies out here in India out of the 200 odd IT services businesses that can really buy us. And to buy us, you need to have base level systems like an SAP HCM system, which is tuned to workforce management, or a Workday system, or an Oracle system that exists in there before you can use a system of intelligence. You need to have a system of workflow or a system of record, both of them. Right? Now, in this market, the problem statement that we face is just on the sales cycle and the ability to get your pound of flesh, your price that would affect the value that you create, I think is a lot better in the US. So if you're modular enough, right, across solutions like workforce optimization and talent acquisition, can you go to a market that's more receptive to AI, that's more looking at the outcomes, and is able to deploy you? So I was talking to another table about time to deploy. For an internal workforce optimization deployment today, within 4 weeks we can deploy. So it's a data science driven model. We go sit on top of an HCM system. We can manage 168 business rules and drive your business within 3 months to a 25% reduction in lead time, guaranteed, or money back. That's the kind of conversation that really hits home, right? Can you do that better here or better in the US? And can you get a better price point? So I was talking about the price value per customer, say an NTT versus a Wipro. It's completely different. So these are things, considerations that one has to take. One is, can you deliver global product? Can you streamline delivery? Because delivery is not about the cool stuff alone. It's not just natural language processing and the edge graph and the search and match. It's about your integrations, your security, and compliance. Right? You're talking about an enterprise customer. You're talking about a CIO. So NTT sent their CIO, their director technology, for 2 days. He just flew down for 2 days to sit in our office and flew back. Right? And then the CIO came. Now it was as if they were going to buy our company. That's the kind of validation. So obviously version control, source code they wanted to see. We didn't show them the source code, but things that you wanted to do, they need leverage this. Can an Indian company deliver to us sitting in the US? You don't even have US presence. But the value that you get in terms of contract and how you can replicate that across customers, the time to market, I think that's product market fit that you have to really, really think about in the ITES segment.
So would the conclusion, Arjun, and I'm interpreting real time, would the conclusion be that if we look at, obviously, we can rule out some things like go to BFSI in the US, okay? So we can rule out all of those as certainly not for today or tomorrow. So then the question that the size of the opportunity in this vertical in the US in revenue terms is probably bigger than the size of the opportunity here in BFSI in India. And given already your strengths in the ITES vertical, and the fact that this is a global business, even the Indian ITES companies are all global, that, and even the big globals like the Accentures and the IBMs and so on, they're Indian presence, but they're US headquartered. That in terms of possibly the ability to win is better. And so if we go back to the core logic, size of the market opportunity and ability to win, if the ITES vertical in US dominates BFSI on both of those grounds, then that perhaps provides clarity in terms of the core focus, the allocation of the company's resources. in terms of key talent, the CEO's time, and so on, etc., should be to focus on that vertical.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree. Even with our UK planning and what we're doing is, we started with 11 verticals, we looked at 200 companies, but we've zeroed into 50 companies that are in the IT space, right? In the IT, IS they call it there, which is services, right? In the US, we're hiring a person not in San Francisco, not in New York, but in Dallas, because the IT ES companies sit in Dallas. And there are at least 100 companies who will pay us $1 million each. And these are companies that make $250 million to $1 billion in revenue, right? Will pay us for this technology because it optimizes their internal workforce and reskill, upskill, and cross-skill their internal workforce dynamically, right? So they value this sort of system of intelligence on top. So we would do that. That's really where it is. So look at that versus the 40 companies here giving us maybe, I don't know, maybe 100 crores, right? But that would be $20 million. I'm talking about getting $100 million out of the US. So look at the 5-time sort of landscape of opportunity there in the US.
The other, yeah, please.
Yeah, actually it's similar. It's not going to be different. It's just that dealing with Deloitte India, I'd rather go to San Diego and deal with the director talent acquisition right there and have that conversation, much smarter. Dealing with HP in India, can't make a decision, have to do it in San Francisco, right? So that's really where the problem is.
Pradeep?
Why us alone? What do you mean? No, absolutely. So what we're doing is we're looking at HR. So people advisory services, which are the EYs, the Bains, the BCGs of the world who are vying for these contracts, right? Put us on their board. So we become one of the logos for their digital transformation journeys. Again, if we talk to the guys in the US, so you talk to McKinsey, Bain, BCG in the US, you start talking the big game. Because these guys have the big contracts and they're all going outcome based. But they will take you, say, to the Middle East and they will deliver a contract there which is like $80 million for a specific human resource development foundation and how to change the game there. But that's the deal. So you need to go and tap into the market there. We were just talking about Accenture that the professor referenced, right? The guys sit in New York, the board, the management, all these guys are there. If you can take that decision from there, enforce it here on a proof of concept, then your ability to get a global contract with an Accenture would be about $3-4 million a year, and you'd get like a 8-9 year contract. So the value is just completely different.
Yeah. One, another thing, and maybe on edge networks, we kind of just look at that. One thing is, if you look at many of the smartest companies, the Googles, the Amazons, and so on, etc. So take Google, for instance, is that and Eric Schmidt in his book, How Google Works, also talked about it, is that Google is simultaneously living in multiple worlds. Meaning that there is a strategy for the next 2 years, a strategy where there would be no products or services or commercialization over the next 2 years, but that's Horizon 2. Maybe 5 years. Then there is Horizon 3, and they're simultaneously living in like multiple universes. So think about driverless cars, okay? They started working on that 10 years back. There's still, zero monetization. Whereas YouTube and Android and others, obviously that's monetization for today. So similarly, if we apply that thing about living in multiple time frames at the same time, that if for the moment we accept the priority 1 is this IT-ITS vertical, go to the US market, then kind of priority 2, okay? What could be that priority 2? BFSI. Exactly. BFSI India. But then maybe, because again we apply, where is the large numbers game? Where is it more complex? Where is it more dynamic, etc., etc.? So that says BFSI India, not BFSI UK or anywhere else, BFSI India. And then once you dominate, so let's say next 5 years, next 3 years, dominate US IT-ITS, dominate BFSI India. And then maybe 3 years, 5 years later, say, let's go with BFSI to Germany or to Japan or to US or somewhere else. But that's tomorrow's game. That's not today's game.
Absolutely. So I take from the reference of Coke deciding whether they should, get into milk or get into alcohol, right? And they decided, okay, they're going to get into juices and water and not even, snacks. But that point of sequencing it, depending on the size of the market and the speed that one can go to it, what do you have? What is feasible? It's very important to recognize on the get-go. Have we done tests with Halliburton? Of course, for oil and gas, for a pipe rack operator, for a blowout preventer, for a jack operator, yes, these are people who are on an oil rig. Can we recognize those skills? Of course we can. Have we done it for an anesthesiast, a radiologist, for Columbia Asia here? Yes, we've done it. But why did we fail there is because we priced like how we were pricing to the ITS segment. Your solution should be based on the market opportunity that you have, and you have to go after it. We don't have that bandwidth to sort of zone in on that. So we said no.
Yeah. And again, you know, this thing about recognize, just in closing, to recognize the opportunity costs, that if you chase everything that moves, okay, there is an opportunity cost. And so just go back to the Coke example. Coke, of course, now is in water, right? So is Pepsi. But so why did Coke delay entry into water and focus on juices first? You know, and juices is not carbonated. And in fact, Minute Maid, which is the Coke brand, is obviously not a carbonated soda. This is completely different. But the reason is because Coke looked at its alphas, and its alphas are A, operations, and B, branding. Okay? Now, when they go to juices, the operation skills and the branding skills and the relationships with channel retailers, all of that carries over. There are many things that are different about the juice business. But when you go to water, yeah, you can put a brand, Aquafina, but the customer really doesn't care a whole lot about this brand of water or that brand of water, and Coke doesn't spend a whole lot of money on advertising the brand of water as they do advertising Coca-Cola. So therefore, going to the water business, yeah, it's a large opportunity, but it's only the operation skills that carry over, not the branding skills. So it's a smaller alpha. And juice is a huge opportunity. So that's the sequencing. It's not that you wouldn't go to BFSI in the US ever. But the point is, not today, not tomorrow, maybe day after.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we sort of do really well is we go after really large customers as, you know, point of entry. So NTT Data Services in the US is a $17 billion services business, and it's the 5th largest in the world. So it's bigger than Cognizant or Infosys or Wipro, right? So think of it as your entry point should be that good. In the UK, it's Prudential, right, for workforce planning. And you know, that's really going to be critical. In banking, we have gone in and we have gotten Edelweiss, but that's the small customer. What the really large 2 customers that we're playing with are HSBC and HDFC. And we should be signing those contracts very soon, but that's the kind of investment. Yes, it takes long. It's taken us 9 months with HDFC, probably about 18 months with HSBC because of security and compliance. And all of that comes down, even if we have the access to the guys in London, it makes it easier because the CIO sits out of there and Hong Kong. Right, so access is very important, and I think a lot of the funds that we have is to build that capability locally, to talk to the right people so that we can deliver on a lot of the stuff here locally, right, in India. But it's going to be global contracts. So yes, we have to focus on the industry that makes sense. Sequencing is very important, otherwise you burn development time, and it has to be for some time later. And you have to let it go. And we let deals go off because we're not capable of delivering it for talent transformation or workforce planning. We just said, listen, we're not productized. And there were 3 customers ready, including Amazon globally, talking to us from the US. We had to walk away. It's painful, but it's much better.
Very good. So just in closing, so essentially strategy is about making choices. Okay. And by definition, when you say choices, when you say yes to something, you obviously are saying no to something else. If you are not prepared mentally to say no to something else, you cannot be thinking strategically. And so what we tried to do in this session is look at the logic that can drive companies to make, hopefully, the right choices or the better choices. And we saw that through many examples, but also the Edge Networks case, their real-life situation, and the StanPlus real-life situation. So thanks, Arjun.
Thank you.